mainstream media was going to come for us sooner or later, and here they come. Before it was just the doo-doo websites, the American Review, we had Publius Holder, John Birch Society, and the rest of those coconuts. But now the mainstream's starting to catch on. Business Insider, a serious, well, serious to the left publication, is now bashing convention estates. They just realized where we're at, and they have a problem with it. Well, we're not playing defense because we're staying on offense. Let's go.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I don't want you to write. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the streets. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
Has the whole world gone crazy? Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the rules?
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. We're back again. Yesterday, Business Insider put out a hit piece on convention estates. So we want to get into that today. Before we do that, make sure that you click the subscribe button. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure you're clicking that follow button. And we absolutely need your engagement today. So every Wednesday, we're on at 5:30 p.m. That's Pacific Daylight Time. Soon it'll be switching to Pacific Standard Time, I believe it is. But that being said, every Wednesday we're on taking questions, talking cause, and hitting with whatever issues there are of the day. Normally, Jack will put out a video during the week. I will put out a video during the week, and then we will converse about the topics on Wednesday, always with some cause flair thrown in there. But Jack, how you doing today?
I'm doing dandy, George. Thank you.
Outstanding. So Jack, they put it, we've been talking about this for a while. They put the hit piece out already. Now it's coming from Business Insider, and that's, not that Business Insider, it's like, even CNN, and then they're not serious news organizations, but at the same time, we've been saying for a while, and I know others in the grassroots kind of know that this is eventually coming, is that they're finally catching on to the fact that we're gaining momentum, and they realize how disastrous everything is right now at the administration level, and it's becoming that there's nothing scarier to Marxists than convention estates. Nothing. Even though there are doo-doo-doos running around saying, but Soros wants to implement his own constitution. And no, Soros absolutely despises the current convention of states movement. And so do all the people in Davos, all the Great Reset people, like all of them. They're scared to death. And now Business Insider puts out this hit piece, which I'm going to get into, and they use their classic tactics to try and divide people. Now, we just did a piece on the polling that came out again, and the polling always shows the same thing, is that a majority, over 50% of Democrats, over 60% of independents, and now it used to be over 70% of Republicans. Now it's over 80%. And in the end, all sides agree on term limits, amendments on government overreach, and reining in the fiscal power of the federal government. All sides have a majority in agreement, but Business Insider wants to come out and start acting like this is a Trump thing. Like they literally, they put his name in the headline because they know it's divisive and they know it's going to split everybody up. And hopefully if there's someone who is interested and intrigued at convention estates, that they would then, and they hate Trump and they have Trump dysphoria, then they're, well, Trump likes it, then.
Hey, folks, I think we might have lost George. I know about a half an hour ago when we were prepping, his computer shut down. So he should be back with us momentarily. He's the one that read the article. I think I'm still live. I hope I'm going to keep on talking for a minute anyway. But George is the one that read the article and brought it up to my attention. Just as a point of interest, the Business Insider is owned by a German publishing company called Access. They have a second name to them. I don't recall what it is. But they also own Politico. So if you're familiar with Politico, so definitely they are a left-leaning, maybe somewhat centric in some topics. However, the fact that they're using Trump really is telling. It's actually a very smart play on their behalf because Trump is a dividing line for many people when it comes to right and left. And as we try and move forward with cause and press this agenda, we really want to bring both sides together. We really want a unification process to occur. George just texted me, I'm coming back. And good. He said, hold on. So he's coming. So really, what we want is a unification process to take place. Obviously, the people on the right are going to be, let's say a stronger target for the cause movement straight away. Because they're the ones that are the most riled up about what's going on, especially since the last presidential election, right? Leave comments, he says to me. Well, not sure what he's saying, but anywho, the fact of the matter is that we're the most riled up on the right, but really,
All right, folks. So we had a little issue there. Give me one sec.
you got to bring me back. Here, let
Yeah,
me finish. Let me finish a
we're
thought.
down to 0 viewers now because of that issue. So I don't know what just happened. It just completely cut off again. All my systems cut off, and I don't have an explanation for it except that the Russians are hacking me. So it is what it is. I see a few people jumping back on, so I appreciate that. If you don't know what just happened, all my systems just shut off. Everything just turned itself off. I have no idea why. It happened right before we went live, and now it just happened again. So if I go down again, bear with me. I'm coming back, but I'm hoping whatever's causing that issue will be rectified shortly. So, or at least will be rectified at the moment. So, just to get back into it, I know we lost a few people across channels just because I did that. And frankly, I am still kind of reopening my systems right now, trying to get this back on track. But Jack, just give me your thoughts about, Business Insider, what the hit piece was, what it was all about, why, like they're coming, right? I mean, that's the way I take this is that they're coming.
Yeah.
That they're on to us and they're coming.
So when you dropped off, I was chatting for a while.
Jack, I don't hear you. Jack,
Okay, let me check my audio.
it could be me.
Everything's set up on my end on audio.
Right, say something?
You can't hear me? My audio is set properly.
Jack, say something?
Hello.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Sorry.
right.
The whole thing went down. It was
No, that's quite all right.
I'm back. So go ahead and give me your take on Business Insider. I may come on and do this again just because of that. If I don't get shut off again, but Business Insider, go ahead and give me your take.
Yeah, so I think it was, pretty smart of them to bring Trump into this, right? So if you were on that side of the, that side of the page, you'd want to bring Trump in because he really sows a lot of seeds of division just immediately. And really, what we want is we want to sow the seeds of unity. We want to bring all the parties together because when all is said and done, we're in this position that we're in this country, not just because of a democratic agenda. It's been a mixed agenda, meaning there's people on both sides in both parties that are participating in this, and they're moving forward with this, one world government type plan. And so it's not just about Republican and Democrat, really. As you've said before, George, it's about patriots, and we need to bring people together. So getting back to that, I think it was smart for them to bring Trump into this and pin it on him, because it's immediately going to turn off a whole segment of people and make it an issue that it's really not designed to be. This isn't an issue for America, not an issue for Republicans or Democrats. It's an issue
Yeah.
for America.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 100%, and you're right. By bringing in Trump, they kind of, sowed the seeds of doubt for those who, because he's so divisive, right? Whether you love or hate Trump, it doesn't really matter. The point is, the guy is super divisive, and like, it's when you they know, and Trump's not the only one that they invoke. We're going to get into this article. I'm going to pull it up on the screen, and we're going to kind of tear it to pieces because what they went ahead and did is really, it's unforgivable. Like, because it's not, the thing about it to me is that despite because there's leftists, the Marxists in Congress, even the Marxists that are in some of these state legislatures, they try to make this all about left and right, and it's so obviously a tactic that it drives me insane. And I'm really hopeful that people will see through that. Like, I'm really hopeful that people will see through the idea that this is some kind of like, oh, it's got, if you're a Democrat, you can't be for what is it? If you're a Democrat, that you can't be for, you can't be for term limits. Democrats want term limits too. Democrats don't like government overreach either. And Democrats don't like, the politicians, right, like the spending. The voters don't. Every voter worth his shirt knows that our spending is out of control. And unless you believe those modern monetary doo-doo-doos, then you know that this is BS. I mean, you know that it's BS. And there's nothing, this is what I was saying before the system went down. There's nothing worse for a Marxist than a convention of states, because it blows up it's literally the American people walking up to the Davos stage and just rolling a hand grenade into the middle of the stage and walking away, wiping their hands. Like, that'll be the end of that. And it really is that, it really is that powerful, because there's no way for them to operate the Davos agenda if the United States transfers power back, where it's not, I don't want to say transfer it back, if the United States if the states retake their own power, is a better way to say it. There's no way for Davos to succeed. They require an almighty central government, and they've gotten our government within the bounds of the Constitution. They've gotten our government as big as humanly possible, and as invasive and intrusive, and it's got its tentacles into our schools. It's got its tentacles into everything. It's able to, and literally it's been that way for decades, and our country is slowly withering away as a result, which just goes back to the founders as to why they set it up the way they did, specifically to avoid this very situation that we're in right now. And, if there's anyone out there that doesn't understand what the Convention of States is and what it actually does, it's basically the same exact, if you look at Article 5 of our Constitution and you read through it, It's not that long. It's a simple paragraph, very simply worded, the way the founders are blessed with writing, and it provides two ways to amend the Constitution. And the whole article is dedicated to the amending of the Constitution. One way is the way we've always traditionally done it, with the 27 times before Congress, 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate. They debate and approve the language for the proposal, and they propose it to the states, in which case 3/4 of the states need to ratify. Well, with a convention, there's no federal government involved. And it's a brilliant thing that our founders put into the Constitution. And we're 19 states in. We need 2/3 of the states to sign resolutions and pass resolutions calling for the convention. We've got 19. We need 34. We've got some more coming this year. And of course, this is not, this is a long game, right? This is the long game. This is not, you don't just amend the Constitution. you got to work to amend the Constitution. And so, with that being said, we're on our way. And now the mainstream media is picking up on it. I predicted it would be when we got to 22 or so. I think Mark Levin had predicted when it got to 20, but we're still at 19, and they're already starting the attacks. Now we'll see how much this grows to, but here is the website for Business Insider, just right from the title. Okay, right from the title, Trump tied conservatives are 15 states away from an unprecedented rewrite of the Constitution. So this Brent D. Griffiths and Grace Panetta are full of crap. Okay, they're garbage. They're garbage when it comes to, they're straight up agenda people. That's all they are. They're agenda people. Trump has nothing to do with the Convention of States movement. Nothing. It started in 2013. So the idea that Trump tied conservatives are nothing. They have nothing to do with this. There's plenty of people that support Convention of States that voted for Trump, but this whole idea that it's Trump-tied conservatives, and when you read through it, they're talking about Rick Santorum. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about Rick Santorum, but they're paranoid because it's 15 states away. And if you go through this, I'm trying to find the piece. There's a piece in here, so where they talk about the idea of the states coming together is going to scare the living hell out of Washington. This was State Representative Bill Taylor of South Carolina. He led South Carolina to pass their resolution, which was outstanding. He says, and they're going to be terrified of the states. That stuff is all right, but now the first part they brought in is they tried to attack Convention of States by saying it's Trump directed, and what they say in here when they say Trump directed, it might be up closer to the top. What they say is that Rick Santorum, a former Trump-tied Republican, and again, they're going to make this entire piece about Republicans and conservatives and Trump and all kinds of stuff that is not relevant. That is not relevant.
Well, yeah, they're pushing it all to one side of the aisle, and really, in reality, the aisles are beginning to merge now more than ever, not so much at the federal level, but at the state level. And I think that's really the important focal point, is that merger needs to take place at the state level. They can battle it out all they want at the federal level, but we need these individual groups, this Democrat and Republican entities in the states, to begin to merge. And Cause is really doing a very effective job of creating that merger. And I think that's where this fear is coming in from. And now they're trying to divide it.
Yeah, well, these are everybody issues, right? Sorry, I got off of that. These are everybody issues. So here they try to tie. So it's working with the American Legislative Exchange Council to push model resolutions in states throughout the nation. So the previous attacks that they brought to Cause were involving this American Legislative Exchange. There was an exercise that was done that wasn't even commissioned by Cause to run some mock mock constitutions. It was just some intellectual exercise that was done that they friggin' tried to tie to Kaz and say these are the constitutions that Kaz is going to write in. Like, number one, as if Kaz is writing them and the commissioners are not, was the first thing that was ridiculous. And then they go on, they actually get into Ted Cruz here as well. So yeah, they talk about the 17th Amendment as if the 17th Amendment was a good thing, and the 17th Amendment, like, that needs to get repealed. I understand that most people don't understand why. I understand that there's a lot and this was a point of taking civics out of the classroom, is to make people constitutionally stupid. Like that's really what the intention was, and they've succeeded. They've succeeded. When you watch these videos of these people walking around asking people what's in the Constitution, what is the Constitution? Like, we literally have Generation Z walking around not knowing what the Constitution even is. Like, they don't even know what, like, the general principle of it is. Forget, like, any of the articles or how a bill gets passed, or, the separation of powers, or, like, forget all that. They don't even know the general premise of what it is. And it's absolutely astonishing to me that that's the case. It's stunning to me. Have you seen any of those videos?
Yeah, I've seen enough of them to shake my head. Look, they don't even understand the very basics. I get that a young person has more on their mind, his or her mind, than politics and so forth. They got to, they're busy, living their freest, best life at that point. But the fact that they don't even teach the very basics in school. I mean, I've seen them talk about things like, who was in the Civil War, and they couldn't get that right. So
Right.
I don't know what's happening.
All of American history has been lost on our youth. There's no doubt about that. Our schools have epically failed children when it comes to history. Epically. Mostly at the high school level. Because that's where you should be learning that stuff. Like, that's where you
Yeah.
should be learning the nuts and bolts of, of how the government works and what the founders' intentions were and those things. I mean, college, like, look, universities are almost dead. They will be dead soon enough. There's not many more generations. I don't care how much corporate America tries to pretend that these bachelor degrees are worth something, but they're not. They're not. And sooner or later, the almighty dollar is going to kick in, and they're going to realize they're getting crap students. They're getting, like, their degree requirements are bringing them garbage. All they're getting are a bunch of doo-doo-doos who know how to study and have no idea how to work or do a job or complete a task or be on time or be responsible or work in a team. They don't have any, or have any kind of social skills. They don't have any of those skills. None of those skills.
They know how to be offended.
Yeah, they know how to be offended. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And it says, like, here's where they bring up Ted Cruz. So they bring up Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz had publicly said he wants term limits and blah, blah, blah. But of course, Ted Cruz is not necessarily for a convention of states. And from what I've read, he's not. Like, when Ted Cruz speaks positive of a convention of states, what he does is he's basically saying what he's hoping will happen is what happened in the past. So whenever the states have gotten fired up and they'll get to, like, number 30 or 31, and then Congress goes ahead. The Bill of Rights was done this way. And then, not with 31, obviously, but I'm saying with the majority of the states bubbling up, Mason, the anti-federalists getting angry that there was no Bill of Rights. So they were about to call another convention. And then and right before they got to do so, Congress proposed the Bill of Rights themselves. And then the states ratified it. And Cruz is hoping that something like that happens. So that, like, he wants to be the one, because from what I understand, his term limits bill was a joke. Like, it had all kinds of, like, outs in it, and all, like, it wasn't the beauty of the constitutional amendment is that it's simply written in plain English with no drama, no nothing. It'll just say, no, no representative in the House of Representatives shall serve more than this many years. No representative in the Senate shall serve, more than this many years. No one in the Supreme Court should be this many years. No interns, no deep state, no, the list will go on about, what their terms are. But like the ramifications of doing it that way, and you know what? They're huge if we don't give in. If we continue to play like if the government, if the feds start to say, you know what, hold on, we'll write balanced budget legislation. We'll write, like if they start going down that road, like we need to say no. Like we need to say no. And like you guys have already, like the states have birthed this child, and the fact of the matter is, after having birthed this child has been running wild for decades on end and is the most irresponsible. It's a friggin' Gen Z, right? This child's acting like Gen Z, like money can just keep getting printed. I'm so mad because no one's giving me, work. No one's giving me money. No one's that's what the government is. And it's time now for like the government can't come back. Like the child can't come back at that point and say, oh, well, I'm sorry, here, let me fix it. Like, no, we're past that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
well, it'll only ever do the minimum, the bare minimum demanded of it, just enough to create a deflection point. And then as soon as that has been deflected, it's business as usual. All right?
right. No, they'll pass some watered down, meaningless stuff. And the thing is, number one, they won't be amendments, they'll be legislation. So they can be taken out much easier than an amendment can, right? Like it's taken now, we're 9 years in now. So, and we probably got another 2, maybe 3 to go. So when you look at it, that's a 10-year, 11-year commitment. That's about what it takes to amend the Constitution. That's about normal. That's like for non-dramatic amendments, even though these are very dramatic. But in the end, amending the Constitution is not an easy process, and you don't get 19 states on board without agreement across the aisle. You just don't. You don't get that. And the reality of the matter is, if we get this to 30, 31, like we need to not sell. We need to not sell at that point. It's kind of like that game with the suitcases. What was it called with Howie Mandel? Deal or no deal, right? Like you need to not take the deal. You need to not take the deal. I don't care what the banker says. We need to not take the deal. Because in the end, every single one of the suitcases involved with not taking the deal in this game are much better than taking the deal, right? It's as if we're at that point, we'd be at 30 and it'll be like there's 4 suitcases left and we've knocked out every low number. You know what I mean? Like at that point, you're getting something out of one of those suitcases you need to go after, because we need to set that precedent.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was just about to say that. If for anything, we have to set the precedent, and we need the average American citizen to understand the power of Article 5. And there's no way they're going to unless we get that where we're sliding into home, whether we get tagged out or not, we got to slide into home.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. And once that's done, even if the states don't ratify, even if we don't get our wish list, the bottom line is Business Insider, the Publius holders, soon it will be CNN and MSNBC and all those doo-doo-doos. Soon they'll all be lining up. They'll be doing, when it gets to 25, 26, they're all going to be lining up. It's going to be a weekly event following Convention of States. Like they're going to have something to say or something to write or something to falsely put out to scare people on Convention of States. They're going to start having something once a week, if not more. Like
it'll be like climate change.
What's that?
It'll be like climate change.
Yeah. Well,
or the death tolls for COVID, right?
Yeah.
Just
exactly.
Keep that number rolling.
They'll just keep it up. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, you know what? Like when it comes when you read stuff like Business Insider, and I did that whole piece on that guy, I think his name was Matt or Mark Rowe from American Review, who it was just as bad as all the other, as is the Business Insider one. But the Business Insider one just shows you how the mainstream is going to approach it, right? The
Yeah.
mainstream is going to approach it. We're tying this to Trump. And I'll tell you the truth. Right now, I know I said in the past, like I was fired up that Rudy was in on it and Rudy was going to learn about it. And, and hopefully he could get Trump on board. But now I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel like now I'm rethinking that and thinking.
That's funny because you and I had this conversation.
We
and
did.
That was my concern. And
Yeah.
you started beating me over the head going, no,
I didn't beat you over the
Trump
head.
in there. Huh?
I didn't beat you over the head.
I was in tears. You don't know because we weren't on video. There was tears.
I don't know
down.
my own strength, perhaps.
Yeah, you do. You got to be careful with me. I'm very thin.
No, but I got your point then too, though. But my attitude then was just, was that there are so many people that are avid and rabid about Donald Trump that if they were to galvanize in each state, because every state has a heavy Trump supporting base, every state. And when you look at local level politics, like that base that's a big enough base that if it gets energized, it can do some serious damage in the it could do some serious damage in a local election, right? Brent Dunclaw says, glad. I'm not sure. Oh, glad y'all talking about this. Yeah, absolutely, Glenn. Brent, this is a big deal, right? And Business Insider, they're the first trickle that's going to be the flow of the faucet, right? The first trickle that's going to be the flow out of the faucet of this media campaign that's about to get launched. And hopefully this will be enough to convince all the doo-doo-doos who are sitting out there talking about, George Soros is promoting convention of states because, you invoke Soros's name and now all of a sudden, people get freaked out and now they don't even want to learn about it. Hopefully once the media really starts to dig in, because the media is all his, right? Including Business Insider. Like this guy is like influential in media to the point where it's ridiculous. And it's just, it's the kind of thing where, once you see him start, because we both, like Jack, you and I know, we've researched this enough. Like I'm good enough with convention. I am well versed enough in convention of states right now to fully understand, in Article 5 in general, to fully understand how scary this is to the Davos people.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
There's no other country that has this.
No. Well, look, everyone is really reliant upon the United States. And the United States is reliant upon its people. We have no savior coming. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's DeSantis. I don't care who it is. We are rapidly moving toward an authoritarian type of a government. And the writing's on the wall. And like you said, this is just the beginning of the flow of the faucet. And if the title of that Business Insider article tells you anything, it's going to tell you that water is going to be highly contaminated because those are outright lies.
Yeah. And you look at this and there it is. Like you see where they're going with this.
Yep.
You see where they're going with this.
Unprecedented.
How do you even bring Trump? Like if you're even a half responsible journalist of any kind, if you're even remotely responsible and not just some cheap hack, how do you even bring Trump? Doesn't even fully understand the convention of states.
Yeah, and pull Trump out, George. Look at the next. The sentence that struck me more than that was where it says an unprecedented rewrite of the Constitution. Right. No one is rewriting the Constitution.
Like you can't, in a simple title, they managed to get like 4 things wrong in like one sentence. Like it has nothing to do with Trump. It's not only conservatives. They did get the 15 states away right, but there's no rewrite going on. It's like, so 3 things in one sentence. They got 3 completely false statements out in one sentence, and they made that the title.
the one thing I will say is when you say they got these statements that are wrong, no, they absolutely got it right. They got it right in terms of fulfilling their objective. They are
Right.
looking to sow the seeds of discontent and of division. And it's extremely divisive. And people start understanding really for themselves what the core functions of Article 5 are, then if they just turn to their old go-to of, oh, I trust this guy's face because he's been telling me this for years, and they just say, oh, I trust that person, so it must be. We're
Well,
hosed.
that's what the John Birch Society's been doing.
Oh,
I mean, you've got
yeah.
all these YouTubers out there who are just like, well, John Birch Society is for this, John Birch Society is for that. It's like, it doesn't matter what John Birch Society is for. If they're if they're telling you something that is completely and fundamentally false, you need to be able to identify that. And frankly, I put that out, right? I put that out I made a whole video dedicated to how they deceive, right? The one that they did on Scalia.
Yeah, and beyond the deceit, there's other things that go on at the John Birch Society. If you remember, I was trying to work with Bobby Piton, who was running for Senate in Illinois, right? And seemed to be a really good guy, and I got behind him and produced the video. Well, the lady that runs his campaign and who actually was on Trump's campaign, her name is Marianne. I won't go any further with who she is. Marianne and I were having a discussion, and I found out she was part of the John Birch Society. So rather than react to that, because of our position on John Birch, I said, what is it that you like about the John Birch Society? She goes, well, I don't spend a lot of time there. She goes, but they have educated me a lot on how our government works and legislation and the Constitution and so forth. And I said, okay. I said, so they're conducting educational classes. And then I said, what's their opinion on something like Article 5? Well, I know they're really, really against it. And I asked her, can you articulate why? She couldn't, but her predisposition immediately would be against it without even knowing why, because they legitimately taught her other parts of how the legislative branch works. They taught her civics classes, but then they slide that in, right? And that's the most powerful lies are blended in truth.
Right. And that's the thing. It's not like everything the John Birch Society says is nonsense. No. They're just so wrong on this issue. Like the fact that they're an organization with means and money and can't read stuns me. Like the fact that they could understand the Constitution good enough to teach somebody else on certain aspects, but completely lose their mind when it comes to article. Like what these types of people, the Publius holders and the John Birch people, like what they're trying to make you believe is that the founders were just out of their minds. Was that the founders, oh, there was no political division then, right? Like they couldn't fathom the political division we have. It's like, are you kidding me? This isn't even the worst political division we've had.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing the founding fathers couldn't fathom. They couldn't fathom Congress members being there for 20 years. I mean, who the hell was going to get on their horse and ride from the Midwest to Boston, right? And I'm stealing from DeSantis there, but
there's truth to that. But in the end, it wasn't even about the horse ride, though. I've heard that too. It wasn't even about the horse ride, though. It was about the fact that it just wasn't. It's the way our state senators are now, right? Like when we, and I play that clip all the time from Mark Meckler, where the state senator that he's addressing corrects him quickly and kind of and says, he's like, well, you do politics for a living. I do this for these. Like, I'm a farmer.
Yeah,
right? And he's
that was
like,
great.
let's just understand one thing. Like me and this other gentleman are statesmen, but I'm a farmer, right? I'm gonna play that clip just to
Yeah,
go
if you
through,
got it.
show it to.
You do politics for a living, and politics are.
I'm a farmer. I'm a farmer.
How about not for a living?
I'm a statesman.
as a-
Senator
as a
Craig and
hobby.
I are statesmen.
I appreciate that. You are, actually, and I see that a lot in state legislators.
And he sees that a lot in state legislators because he travels all over the country and talking to state legislators. And one of the things about state legislators that's completely different than the federal government is 90% of them do not have ambitions to be in politics their entire life. That other 10% are the ones who are trying to get into the federal government. That's they're running for state senator, or they want to run for and those are the people who want to spend their life in it. The people who are making the decisions on these resolutions, these people are not spending the rest of their life in their state legislature. They come in, they get elected in, they do 1, maybe 2 terms, and then they're out. Why? Because he's a farmer, right? He got a farm to worry about. They got a business to worry about. They got a job to worry about. They don't state legislatures don't even meet all year long. That's why this process takes so damn long, because they meet like 70 days a year. Some of them don't even meet every year. Some of them meet every other year.
Yeah.
So it's like these are for the people who want to put the state legislators in the same category as like a federal congressperson. You're doing it wrong. There's a reason why the founders gave these guys the power. And don't get it twisted, all right? The fact that the federal government has been overreaching does not change the fact that the most powerful entity in politics in the United States are your state legislators. That's who it is. Per the Constitution, the question now is, are they going to start, the rest of them going to join on and pass these resolutions that start to take this country back? Or are they all going to sit on the sidelines scared, waiting until it's too late, until the dollar has officially crashed and the International Monetary Fund comes and announces the new IMF digital coin that they brag that they're going to have on their way, or maybe the Fed has to introduce a new digital coin, but the dollar, as will be dead, and we'll still be sitting on the sidelines but we don't trust us.
Yeah, and we'll be graded with a social credit index score that tells us what we can spend our money on and what we can't spend our money on, the way that China does, right? And
the ESG scores. What is it? Environment, social justice, and governance, right?
Yeah, and God forbid you have any hate speech, you'll probably won't be able to spend your money on something, and you'll get arrested. I saw a video of a guy in the UK today getting arrested because he reposted something. So he didn't create it; he reposted it, and they came and took him away in handcuffs because it was.
They don't have free speech in the UK.
No, they don't.
That's what people don't understand. When people think that all these countries are free, Europe is free, this one's free. They're not free. There's that classic video that went viral, and I still see it pop up from time to time. I forget the actor's name, but he's sitting down on this panel, and he goes on this long rant about how there's other countries that are free. The United States is not the only free country. It's like, no, dude. Every time I see it, I have to comment in it to make sure people understand that we are the only truly free country in this world. There is no replica. There is nothing resembling the United States in this world. Not only because of things like Article 5, just things like the First Amendment. These countries are allowed to speak freely. They don't have a right to free speech. There's a difference. When the UK wants to crack down on your speech, they can legally.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, we're the United States of America. Every single state has its own constitution, and they have decided to join and form that common union called the United States of America. and they enacted a federal government, or put a federal government in place that could be representative of the whole, but they would have their own sovereignty. There is no country in the world like that. None. The closest thing I can think of is the European Union, but they fail like hell to even get close to what we can do. Right?
Yeah, the
But that would be
European Union is a shell of like even the UK is not on board with the European Union.
no,
Right? They
I
just
know
got
that.
done with
I'm just
Brexit.
saying
Like,
that the only thing worldwide that you could ever compare to the United States
well, they're
that
working
I
on
can
that,
think
right?
of, huh?
Well, they can't compare it to the United States, but they're working on the whole one world.
Oh
Soon
yeah,
you'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
able to compare it all to the United States if they get their way,
If
right?
they get their way.
Because we'll be like, if we fail at this effort, this is I could scream it from the rooftops. There is no other solution except
No.
convention of states. There is no other solution. There are none. None. There's no election that you can, it doesn't make, none of it matters if we don't get this convention passed. The elections, do they matter that we take back control of the election? Sure. But the point is, even when you take back control, it doesn't matter who you elect. It doesn't matter. There's no Superman. Trump's not going to save the country. DeSantis is not going to say, they can help. And I say this all the time, like what I expect from the next president of the United States is to not do any freaking damage while we, the people, take care of business, because the job is on us right now. It's not on some politician or elected figure. It's just not. And too many people are still focused in that area. And worse yet, they don't even understand what convention of states is. Like once, what I try to explain to people is that once you do the reading, okay, and when it's not like you got to read, War and Peace or anything, right? You're reading a few. You can get the point of it with like one book, right? Rob Nadelson's Article 5. I just bought it too. It's one of the last ones I'm reading, but that's an excellent place. Now that I'm reading it, I'm realizing that would have been a great place to start. But I've read through Madison's notes, September 15th, 1787. People should check that out. Control F, Colonel Mason. It'll take you down to the parts of the document where Colonel Mason is referenced, and you'll see what his opinions were during the convention of the need for an amendment process to be only to the states have that option. You'll see in Federalist Papers 40 and 43, I believe, but 40 in particular, where Madison straight up lays out the case for all of these haters on runaway convention and whatever, who try to start their argument by saying that the first convention was a runaway. It was not a runaway convention. At Federalist Paper 40, it's not a long read, but it's in Old English, so you'll have to work through it. If you can't work through it, I did a video on this. You can look it up on our YouTube channel. Go to our channel, search the channel under Madison, and you should see it. And Madison and Federalist Paper 40 breaks down exactly why it was not a runaway convention, and that the commission that they were given was not to amend the Articles of Confederation. That word was never even used. So as soon as you hear somebody say that, call them out on it, because the fact of the matter is they were there to revise the Articles of Confederation. And you may say, well, that's kind of the same thing, right? Well, here's the catch. They were also, they were also commissioned to create a firm national government. Now, if you know anything about the Articles of Confederation, I understand that we may have viewers who don't. The Articles of Confederation was technically our first constitution. It was draft one, if you will. It was put forth, not draft one, but because it was passed and we ran under it for a while. But it was basically incredibly state heavy. The federal government had no power to create currency. It had no source of bringing in income it had no power to tax, so it couldn't support a military. Like the Articles of Confederation were a disaster. And it was understood by all the states that we needed a convention in the put together. What happened?
I thought we lost you, but it just
no,
might be my internet. It might be
Yeah,
my
it's
internet. We got a
organic.
hell of a storm. Yeah, we got a hell of a storm going on here.
So, but anyway, so the point of the matter is, the articles were inept. They knew they were inept. Madison makes the case in that Federalist Paper 40 very clearly that it was one or the other based on the commissions that they were given. They were either going to preserve the Articles of Confederation and not have the firm government that they were asking for, or they could go to the firm, get the firm government and not have the article, not technically have the name Articles of Confederation and such. And they decided to go with the ends that were requested rather than the means. And he gets into detail about it in that Federalist Paper 40, and it's a clear demonstration of what the mindset of the founders were. This idea that they paint, that they just went in there and went rogue, is just nonsense. It's just nonsense, and I'm so over it. And I'm so over the Business Insiders and the American Review and the Publius holders and the John Birch Society. I'm so over. It's bad enough that our schools miseducate our kids. Now we got freaking these organizations miseducating adults, and it drives me insane, Jack.
Well, unfortunately, we have generations of people that have been programmed not to learn and do their own thinking, but just to regurgitate what they've been told.
Yeah,
I mean, think about how
too.
that's how school was designed, right? It wasn't about getting you to think. It was just getting you to memorize and repeat.
Well, Jack, think about it for a second, right? When did you learn the most about things like the Constitution and politics and stuff? Did you learn it in school, or did you learn it in the world from your own reading and whatnot?
Oh, I learned a lot of it. I mean, the foundation of it when I was in school, when I was young.
Well,
But
you were in school. You were in school in like the '60s, right? The early '60s or whatever. So
I,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I was in grade school in the '60s and early '70s,
okay.
and so
So
yeah,
so
I miss.
it might have. 'Cause I mean, they started that push in the '50s. It didn't, but I mean, your generation was the first one indoctrinated, but they didn't really take. They didn't really remove civics the way they did later on, where it was just completely absent. From even in the '80s, I guess they still had like the cartoon that I'm a Bill and he's kind of running
Yeah,
around. But like, the thing is though, there was no like my way up the chain in school. Now, grammar school is what it is, but in high school, the only place the place that sparked me, believe it or not, was one teacher that I had in college in CW Post University, Long Island University. Was He was a history of American government teacher, and I took that class because my political science class, the 101 that I took, was a disaster. It was a Bill Clinton fest. If you didn't like Bill Clinton, you were going to struggle in that class. It was clear to everybody that that was the case, and so that's the way it went. So when I came to the second one, I'm like, I don't want to do poli sci, 102 or whatever, the second one. I chose this one. And I was blessed to have a teacher who actually gave a crap and taught American history in a way that like from the founders' perspective, and it really sparked me to like go off. It was my senior year, it was my senior year, and I kind of went off into the world with this, excitement about it. Where now I'm watching all the documentaries. Now I'm like reading stuff, and I kind of went through the rest of my life that way. And even then, I didn't fully understand the process of Article 5 Convention of States until we stumbled across it about a year and a half ago. And it took me months to get through all the accusations and all the nonsense and everything else to get to the meat and potatoes, of what was actually, of the power that it actually had. And like, this is why I'm so adamant, because I just feel like as soon as people realize like how sweeping these changes are, right? Like all the stuff. Let's just assume for a second. I know the ass, you and me, I get it, but like let's just assume for a second, right? That all the amendments, everything on our wish list passes, right? So let's think about the wish list. At least I'll give you mine. 17th Amendment overturned, right? Legislatures are now appointing senators. We're back to the way the founders designed it. 16th Amendment overturned. No more income tax. tariff only. You can only tax consumables. That's always what was constitutional until the progressives were able to amend the Constitution. So single subject amendment. All right. So any bill that gets written can only be on one subject. It cannot have what is it? Why is that significant? Because it removes all of the pork out of the bill. All of the stuff when you hear these idiots, these insulting idiots talk about each other, whether it's Democrat or Republican, they both do it. Oh, the other side doesn't want to vote for a veterans bill. They hate veterans. And meanwhile, tagged onto that bill are about 300 things that have nothing to do with veterans and are absolute like no deal, no deal pieces of legislation but they put it on the veterans bill so that they could turn around and accuse the other side and use our veterans like there's some kind of political prop, right? Single subject bill would eliminate that possibility. If you want to make a veterans bill, that can only be about veterans. Now let's see if it doesn't pass. And this is what pisses me off about these people, and because it's evidence of how much they just don't give a crap about you. I don't care. Yeah, your guy too. They don't give a crap about you. Once they're in there for 6 years, once the machine gets hold of them and the avalanche crushes them, Mark Meckler, who was a co-founder of the Tea Party, he talks about the disappointment they had in the Tea Party, of the fact that like here it was, they thought they were getting all this success and they were getting all these people in office that they wanted to get in office, and then once they got there, they just got eaten alive. It's like a midget walking into an avalanche, and that's it. Poof, gone. That's it. Unrecognizable they were, even a month after they went in, right? Because the system is structurally broken, and this is why no elected official is going to save you. This is why Trump went in and got his. And everyone wants to think he was kicking butt in there. He got it handed to him. Let's face it. He got it handed to him, and then he had the election taken from him. He didn't get elected out of it. He got thrown out of office. Like the swamp ain't playing. The swamp ain't playing, and right now the people can't be playing either. I'm just tired. I'm tired of freaking playing defense all the damn time. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of having to watch, Dan Bongino or some of the others, Ben Shapiro or all these guys, and they're just telling me stories of stuff that are making me angry, and I'm just sitting here like reacting.
Where's the solution?
Yeah, reacting, and I'm just like, I'm done with it.
I'm not interested in people making a living off of my reaction. Let's start.
I don't care though. I don't care that they make a living off that.
I don't care, but I want them to drive towards the solution. Don't just keep on talking about what's wrong. Talk about how to fix it. Otherwise, nothing gets done. It gets old. Right.
And the thing is, a lot of them will talk about what they feel are the solutions. It's just that to them, the solutions are, we need a red wave in 2022. We need a red wave, and I'm just like, you could have all the red you could have a red planet. It's not going to change it's not going to change the structural damage in our government. It's not going to change it. And I don't know what has to be done to make people see that. Like, I don't know what, obviously we're a small growing channel, very young. So, it's going to be a while. But in the end, my goal is to get people to understand that there's no politician that can help you, that the system is broken. It's not that we've elected bad people. It's that no matter who, now we have, right? We got a guy who's demented in the office, but the point is, what does it say? It says, I see you wearing a Mason shirt. I see who you are. Yep, George Mason right here. George Mason. I wore it because the topic today was Business Insider attacking Kaz. The shirt says George is the only Mason influencing change in America. So if Kaz people get that, people who are not with Kaz will be like, what does that mean? And then I will get to start a conversation about convention of states. It's kind of tricky like that. And you can purchase this shirt from our website, by the way. It'll give you a link to our Etsy store, and the shirt is actually on there. But yes, I do have my Mason shirt on, Sandra. So thank you for pointing that out. I pull it out every now and then when I know for 100% sure it's going to be a cause conversation among some of the other cause gear I have. But like this one is a particular favorite because people who don't know cause are like a lot of people. You know, Jack, how many people don't know who George Mason even is?
Oh
They call
yeah.
him the forgotten founding father. Like they don't even know who he is. It's like, dude, this guy's responsible for the Bill of Rights, and you don't even know who the hell he is.
Well, I remember the first time I heard George Mason's name, and I thought I mistook him for the guy that played blues that I like, Dave Mason, the guitar player.
Well, I mean, I always knew about. I didn't know George Mason's influence on Article 5, but I always knew who he was. Like I always knew he was an anti-federalist. Him and Patrick Henry, like I always knew that part of it. But like I never got deep into who he was via that. So, but anyway, look, Business Insider's coming after him. Business Insider's coming after him. It's going to be the first drip in the faucet. They're all going to start attacking. I don't know that it's going to, be a tsunami right now, like all at once. I think when we get to 23, 24, 25 is when the more notable publications on the Marxist side are going to start preaching.
So she thinks that you're talking about Freemasons.
It's not Freemasons, Sandra. It's George Mason, the forgotten founder, and he was not a Freemason. So yes, there's a painting of yeah, that's a good call, Jack. So yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
She says I'm not stupid here. Yeah, it's not stupid. It's ignorance. George Mason is not a Freemason, nor were the majority of the founding fathers. So there were some who were. Most notably was George Washington, who had the famous painting taken. But the reality of even George Washington is that that's one of those deals. Mostly when you read up on that and you're not reading the conspiracy stuff and all that, you just look at the historical side of it. Most believe, she says, bull. Sandra, you got proof? Because it's true. He's not a. This is what she said here. Because for the other channels, she's saying bull. So Sandra here is saying that George Mason was a Freemason, and that secretly he was, and that somehow we know that. I don't know how, but he was not a Freemason. So that's the best I could tell you. I don't want to take that too far because he was not a Freemason. And the fact of the matter is, even those who were likely signed on by the Freemasons. The Freemasons needed them more than they needed the Freemasons, and that's the reality. So Sandra says she researches all. So do I, Sandra, and I can tell you, I guarantee you, you cannot provide me a link showing that George Mason was a Freemason. Just because his last name is Mason does not make him a Freemason.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way. Trust me, I've gone down all the Freemason rabbit holes. I'm over that already. The Freemasons don't matter either. That's another thing that doesn't matter with Convention of States. All right, is the freaking none of this stuff matters. Like all these people who talk about, well, the Rothschilds and and the central bank, and they're the ones, like that stuff doesn't matter to Convention. If Convention of States passes and the United States gets its fiscal house in order, okay, we start pay. It's going to take a while to pay down $30 trillion of debt, but that's what happens when you let the kids run crazy with the credit card for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. That's what happens. But once the debt is, not even when it's paid down, as the debt clock stops, it starts to move in the other direction. Okay. When that happens, all right, immediately the dollar gains strength. Now it's less money to pay the debt because the dollar is worth more. And that snowball effect will continue the more that debt principal gets paid down. And upon the day where it is fully paid down, you understand the central bank is useless at that point. It's not even necessary. And the Rothschilds have no influence. So now the Rothschilds will be reduced to just some other trillionaires that live around the world, but they don't have a military. Then if the American people are running a country on our own, if we're running it at the state level, there is no one guy, two guys, one Congress for these guys to bribe and come at. And the fact of the matter is, will we get to a point 100 years from now, if we pass this thing, where it starts to slide back in that direction? Like, are the Rothschilds going to go away? Are the, the Davos people going to go away? Is Klaus Schwab going to just let it go? No, they're going to keep on keeping on, and there'll be a new Soros, and maybe we'll be dealing with Soros's great grandkids, who will then be funding the same thing, but they'll need a whole new strategy, because the one that they would have used for the last 60 years will have fallen apart. And that's the end. Now, here's something she says that I agree with. So they won't. One bird, two wings. Or both wings on the same bird is what. Yeah, I say that all the time. So I 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you. There you go, Sandra. See that? We found a common ground. That's that's what I like to see. So they definitely are two wings of the same bird. I have no interest in discussing. I don't see Democrats and Republicans. I see Americans and I see Marxists. That's what I see. And if you're, you either love the country or you don't. And if you don't, there's some old Kennedy Democrats out there who we could debate on things like abortion and unions and traditional Democrat stuff. And they still love the country, though. They still love free speech. They still think it's this whole gender thing is ridiculous. Like, they still have common sense. Bill Maher is a good example of that, right? Bill Maher, still had, now people are starting to say, is Bill Maher turning conservative? It's like, no, he just never changed from what he was. like he still doesn't like Trump. He still, is pro-abortion. He's still, but it's just
he's still a traditional liberal.
Right. He's just not insane. Right. And it's like these days, if you're not insane, then they think you're a conservative. Like that's what you're not only a conservative, you're a radical conservative.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not insane, it's like in a land where everyone is insane, is the sane person now insane? the old adage.
George, it's 9:40. Do you want to bring this to a head?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it. So,
all right.
Well, across the channels, we another successful night, except for the fact that my entire system shut down midstream. But for those of you who hung in there, thank you. We were live to Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. I know we lost a few people when I crashed, but hey, it is what it is, huh? But we'll be on again this week. Both Jack and I will be coming out with some more videos. I still owe you guys the walkthrough of the WEF website, and we're going to do that. I got one more comment from Sandra here. We sunk so low. This corporation is sick. Which corporation is that? I'm not sure which corporation we're talking about there. But anyway, unless she's calling the nation a corporation, which is a popular adage and not far from the truth, actually. But but that being said, we're going to, Jack, you got any last words you want to throw out?
No, I mean, bringing the thing full circle. Smart play on behalf of the opposition to bring Trump into this thing. And we just have to keep an eye on it and try and stay ahead of the curve. That's all.
Yeah, and that's it, right? I mean, we do have elections coming up. We do have to pay attention to those. They're not irrelevant completely, but convention of states, really, folks, it's the one thing. If there's any solution, it's this one. It's the only one that will work, because it's the only one that doesn't involve the federal government, who are the source of all things bad right now. And the fact of the matter is, regardless of switching out the president, that's a good thing. But in the end, it's the machine that's causing the trouble. Convention of States bypasses all that. So when you see articles like Business Insider and other nonsense, I put out videos debunking Publius Holder. I've put out videos taking out the John Birch Society and showing you the tactics that they use in that Antonin Scalia video. So check out those things. Don't just let yourself get caught up in one narrative. All right. So until next time, we'll see you in a few days. I may go live again instead of putting out a recorded video this week. We'll see what happens. But until then, We're out.
And like that,